Good morning.
Morning, Manu. Will I call you Manuela or Manu?
Manu.
Manu. Okay.
Manu. So I'm here with Eddie, my historian friend from Sligo, and he is going to tell us about himself and about the importance of the Spanish Armada, especially here where he lives in Sligo.
Okay, Manu, I'm Eddie O'Gorman. I've been chair of a group called Spanish Armada Ireland for the last 10, 11 years. And we moved to this area about 20 years ago. And when you walk around the area or you travel around the area, you see lots of references to the story of Francisco de Cuellar and the Spanish Armada. And just like you, I had a knowledge of the Armada, but I didn't realize its close connection to this particular part of the world. So we have 3 wrecks on Sligo Beach, and Sligo Beach, you've been there, it's a very, very beautiful place, probably one of the most beautiful beaches in Ireland, and we have many beautiful beaches. And the fact that we have that connection with something that happened 430 odd years ago, and that this little neck of the woods, this unpopulated, largely uninhabited, wild neck of the woods has a connection with the world story that is the Spanish Armada of 1588 is an extraordinary thing. And we're very fortunate insofar as we have a famous survivor, Francisco de Cuellar, captain of the Armada, captain of one of the ships of the Armada, who, when he returned to Spain, and he did return to Spain, wrote an account of his time in Ireland. And it is a thrilling account of daring do and survival and the tough times he had and the great successes he had. He's a marvelous hero in our view, and we are very much adopted him as our hero, basically. So the story of Francisco de Cuellar is very, very exciting, and it accounts a time in Irish history that was very important too, because the English were beginning to, under Elizabeth I and her deputies in Ireland, were endeavouring to impose the Protestant religion in Ireland and overthrow the old Gaelic system. So the policy they had was called surrender and regrant. So they go to the local chieftains, all the chieftains in Ireland who were operating under the old Gaelic system, Brehon law, and they would ask them to hand over their right to the land to the crown, and they in turn would receive a Tudor title, like so the earls or a lord or whatever. And that was the policy because it was a far cheaper way of doing it than sending in armies. The number of English mercenaries in Ireland at the time were quite small. 2,000, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people, soldiers, but they relied largely on recruiting Irish people to the cause, and but again, that was very much a part of the time.
Go.
Now, go on. Ask me something else. What else?
Okay, but the communication, because I mean, back then, English was not the language, and of course, the Spaniards, they spoke Spanish. So, how the communication? I mean, how Francisco was able to communicate and to survive back then?
It was very interesting. You're absolutely right. Gaelic, the Irish language, was very much the lingua franca. And but there were educated people in Ireland, priests particularly, who had training in Latin. And Francisco was a very educated man. So from time to time in his ventures in Ireland, he met priests, educated people, and they directed him in the correct way. And of course, the other thing is, if you're under threat of death every day, you learn very quickly to communicate by hand signals or by expression. And the Irish people that took him in and looked after him, were very empathetic. He arrived in Ireland. When he arrived on the beach, he was badly damaged, and his leg, for the 7 months he was in Ireland, kept getting reinfected. But several times he found a way of meeting people who looked after him, who gave him local remedies, poultices, and patched him up and sent him on his way. It would appear that he was very popular with womenfolk. And you have to remember back then that in Ireland particularly, the women people were quite liberated. Divorce was allowed in Irish law, and if a wives could become the leaders of their clan. It was an elective process among the people who were the nobility of the tribes. And we have great examples like Gráinne Mhaol, the Pirate Queen, who became a chieftain of a very large part of the West Coast. So, yeah, Francisco, I'm sure
And he's Sussex.
I'm sure he left his mark in Ireland. We were talking earlier about the Black Irish, this myth of the Black Irish, and there is traces of Spanish blood in the people of the West, but it doesn't relate to the Armada necessarily. It would go, but because there were connections between Spain and Ireland going way back to the Aeons. Originally, the Milesians, one of the original invading forces, were from Spain. So there's a lot of controversy about that. And an awful lot of Irish people who have dark skin and brown eyes, they think that they're very much Spanish because they're passionate and
that's nice to think about. Yeah, it's very romantic.
But then they do the DNA test and they find they're 90% Viking.
Oh my God.
It is very interesting. And that whole the whole history of DNA is a fascinating area of study too. I don't know much about it, but it's very interesting that it is handy as you meet people who come to our centre in Grange, and they say, well, my father told me that my great-great-grandfather had this wonderful sallow skin, and he's definitely descended from the Armada. But it's nice. It's nice
to think about. It's very romantic if you think.
Yeah. So there you go. Now, you asked me, So anyway, we came to the area 20 years ago and we saw this signature, and then I realised that this was a wonderful, wonderful story. And I wasn't the first one to set up a group in Grange. There were a number of enthusiasts back the years. There were several, particularly the 400th anniversary in 1988. There was a group that got together at that time to remember what happened here. Over 1,000 men died on the beach, well documented by Francisco de Cuellar. And there was a series of ceremonies, remembrance. There was a pop-up museum. People came from Spain. And that was probably the first time there was a formal recognition of what happened here. But the local people, and in folklore in particular, the loss of life on Striga and all along the West Coast have been remembered by the people who brought those bodies ashore and buried them in mass graves. Because you have to remember that Ireland was Catholic at that time, so there would be a certain affinity with the Spanish people that came ashore. But then on the other hand,
the hate against the English.
Well, yes, that was in common too. But then there were quite a number of Irish. We have to be very honest about it. Like, there's no point in pretending that for example, when the three ships wrecked in Striga, there were a large number of local people very, very anxious to take whatever they could from the people who survived and made it to the beach. And, that because it was a very time of great poverty, and people had to, as they do in course all over the world, they take advantage of what the sea throws out. But as proven by the story of Francisco de Cuellar, they were a large number of people who were sympathetic and empathetic and helped a lot of the survivors to make their way back to Spain. There were over 5,000 people lost from all the way from the Causeway on shipwreck, all the way from the Causeway coast right down to Kerry, including there were wrecks in Donegal, Sligo, Mayo, Galway, Clare, and then down to Kerry. over 5,000 people were lost. Soldiers, largely because that the Armada was carrying a 20,000 soldiers who were going to be used to knock down the walls of London and set up a Spanish noble or princess to rule England and return it to Catholicism. But that great plan failed. Bad planning.
Bad planning, yeah.
Much mischance.
Yes.
Yeah. But we were talking about that earlier, and of course, things could have been very, very different. If,
yeah.
for example, Santa Cruz had survived, you know, the great admiral, because poor old, whose name is escaping me now, Mom now, the admiral of the fleet. Who was the admiral of the fleet?
Which one?
It'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, he was no sailor. And
the Sidonia.
yes, the Duke of Medina Sidonia.
Sidonia.
He was a great administrator. I have great admiration
but
for him.
He told the king he was never, you know, a sailor. I mean, a captain. He was never, well, doing that. So for him, it was the first time.
And the poor man was very sick. Every time he went
yes,
on board
exactly.
the ship, he got sick. So
and he survived as well.
And he survived. Yeah, and he survived for quite a number of years. He went into retirement, and he never, you know, I'm sure it was one of the great regrets of his life, taking on that commission, because, as I say, if Santa Cruz hadn't died the year before, he was a proper admiral, he was a proper seaman, and he probably would have taken advantage of the fact that the English fleet was in Plymouth, and had he gone in there, they could have been destroyed that defensive fleet. The whole thing might have been different, but sure, this is the story of history, isn't it?
And in Sligo, you were so lucky because, I mean, Francisco happened to, you know, to be in here and survive and write everything that he wrote about it to let us all know what happened back then. So,
and it's wonderful because it is a factual story. He was here. It was contemporaneous, and there are very few records of the time of outsiders observing Irish society. And he very vividly describes the women folk and the chieftains and his interchange with the people and how he survived. And he describes the food and he describes how people lived. So it's for us, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to have this Carta. And that most recent publication, which we were talking about earlier there, which has a facsimile of the Carta itself. It's a fascinating publication. And
for how long he stayed here?
He stayed here. Okay, so he arrived in September. The 21st of September, the great gale came and drove those 3 ships onto the beach.
What was the name? The chief who took him in?
Well, O'Rourke was the local chieftain,
okay,
right? But it was Maclancy, his sub-chieftain, that really looked after him. But for people who have an interest in academic publications, that book there is the one to look for, and I'm hoping that it will be republished.
Oh, let's hope, because I want it.
Capitan Cuellar, which was produced by the Department of Culture in Spain, and in collaboration with the Irish Underwater Archaeology Unit and the Department of the National Monuments Service. So anyway, did I answer your question? Did you ask me a question?
Yes. How long he's been
here? Yes. So he was the best part of September, October, November, December, January with Maclancy, living like among the Irish, like the Irish themselves, and describes that very well. Then he headed for the northern coast, probably spent another couple of months, somewhere around 6-7 months in Ireland. And from there, he was...
he learned the language?
He probably picked... Yeah, well, he was a very educated man. He had Latin. He wasn't just a sailor, he was a soldier as well. He obviously had friends at court, so he must have been well regarded in the court of Philip II. And the fact that he had classical education would have helped him, as I said, in his travels in Ireland, meeting clergymen in particular who helped him on his way. In fact, it was the local bishop of Derry, Raymond, um, Raimondo Termi, he calls him, Gallagher, he was a Gallagher, and he assisted De Cuellar and several hundred others to make their way to Scotland, and from there they were hoping to make their way back to the Spanish Netherlands and back to Spain. And a lot of them did get that. Francisco turned up in Antwerp, where he wrote the Carta. So it was, again, when you think about it, he was wrecked 3 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he was wrecked in Ireland, he was wrecked in Scotland, and he was wrecked in Holland.
Jeez.
But he still survived and made
He
his
still
way
survived. He's a survivor.
and wrote his Carta.
He's
So
a
there's
survivor.
there's an encouragement for all of us
Yes.
now, Manuela.
When it's not the time, it's not the time.
Yeah, so there you go.
But the chief was killed after helping him, right?
Yeah, and he was very clear about it when he in his conversations with Francisco. He knew he was going to. Metlancy had the island fortification in Rosclare, and there was a siege in late 1588. An army came out of Dublin to gather up all the surviving Spaniards that came off the wrecks, and was killing them on the spot wherever they came across them. They had heard that Metlancy was sheltering sailors from the wrecks, and he had an island fortification. Normally what the Irish did when they were faced by a force larger than themselves, they took to the hills, and when they knew the territory. So Metlancy decided that's what he was going to do, but De Cuellar and 12 others, compatriots, said they would defend the island fortification against all comers. And they did, and they held out for, I think it was the best part of 3 weeks. And when the English departed because the weather was coming in, it was getting very cold, the snow was falling, they had to head back to shelter. And threatening that they would be back in the new year, Metlancy came down from the hills, and of course Francisco was a great hero, having defended the castle for this period of time against an army 3,000 strong.
Exactly.
And it was a wonderful feat of what would you call it? Arms, I suppose. And Metlancy wanted to hold on to him, but anyway, Francisco made his way to the north and got back. Metlancy, the English did come back in the spring, and they were making the way to Rosclare. Metlancy saw them coming and endeavoured to swim out to his island fortification, but he was shot with an arrow and dragged ashore and beheaded on the spot.
Oh my God.
His head was sent to Dublin as proof of his demise. And the Lord Deputy of Ireland at the time, one of the Binghams, who was the local representative of the English forces in Connacht, sent his head to Dublin and described it as the best killed man in Ireland.
Oh my God.
Which was a fair epithet. No.
But that's this thing about you as, a people. You were so all welcoming. I mean, and even back then, okay, there was this thing against the English. You were Catholics, just like the Spaniards, but you have this thing taken in people so nicely. You all got me here so, openly. And this is a beautiful thing about the Irish people. And I think this comes from, a long, long time ago. It's something that you still have it.
Well, I agree, Manuela, but it's a reciprocal thing. I mean, we're empathetic to people who have interest in us. If you're saying the wrong things and you're a nasty person, we'd be very quickly to push you aside. So if you've been embraced by the Irish people, you must be a very good person.
Oh, thank you. No, I mean, but it's true. Because talking about history now, it was dangerous. People, they were risking their own lives to help someone that, could not give anything back. So this is something really nice.
But remember, Manu, And when we're all, particularly among poor people, we're all looking to heaven,
True.
for,
True.
and you were building up. No, I don't know. Yes, we are empathetic, and people back then did take huge risks and paid the price. Francisco talks about that. He worries about two women that took him in and sheltered him in the north. And he worried that when the English found out that they had harboured him, that they would get in trouble. So yes, and of course the other chieftain who suffered because of his help for the Spaniards was O'Rourke. O'Rourke, after this, a couple of years after this period, realized that he was being defeated, and he wanted to seek help. And the closest place he could go to seek help was in Scotland, because James VI of Scotland was Catholic, was empathetic to the Irish cause at the time, until he realised that he was the next in line for the
He was the
English
son
throne.
of Mary Scott.
Mary, Queen of Scots, yeah. So, but at that time he was taking in people, and that's why O'Rourke went to him, and at this stage James realised that his best plan was to stick with Elizabeth, and she sent him to Tyburn.
Politics
And he
every
was-
single time.
Poor fellow was hung, drawn and quartered on Tyburn, a horrible death. But yeah, he's a great hero of mine, another great hero of mine. And he controlled a large part of this area, which includes the counties of Sligo, Leitrim, and back into towards the north. So again, he had a lot of, he had maybe 7 or 8 fortified positions dotted all around his territory. And he held up for a long time against the English invasion, if you like, but had to succumb in the heat of the hunt. And as I say, he came to a very sad end. So it is a very important part of our history, because it is a time when the Gaelic system is collapsing, and the Tudor law is being imposed on the people, and that the ancient Breton laws, which were very, very liberal, were being discarded in favour of the Tudor feudal system. So yeah, that's why it's of such importance to me, because it is a seminal part of our history.
Yes.
And again, the connection with the world story that is the Spanish Armada, that is an extraordinary connection.
It's true.
And a lot of our chieftains ended up in Spain, and their offspring became the generals in the armies of the continent.
Wow.
In places like Spain and France and Italy. And, so the Irish diaspora of that time, we have, for example, Lynch is a very famous French wine family. And you have, if you look into the O'Donnells, the main street in Madrid is Calle O'Donnell. And you'll come across the O'Donnell name all over the continent.
Yes, true.
But of course, the connections there was also a large connection on the religious side. An awful lot of the priests that were the people with vocations were sent to the continent to get their religious education in places like in Spain and France, etc.
And the importance of the Armada right now for Ireland, the connection that you have, because every year you have these festival. I was in here last year for the exhibition at the City Hall. It was amazing, and you deserve all the praises, because you don't like to be called expert. You are an enthusiast, but for me, you are a very, very, very good historian, and you know everything, and you taught me so much. So what is the importance of...
Well, the festival, remember, the festival happens over a weekend that largely coincides with the anniversary date of the wreckings, which is
September, right?
21st September. So we have a festival of commemoration, or a heritage weekend, based on the Armada story. The most important event is the commemoration of the 1,000 people that died. Overlooking Streeja, and we've been there, is a monument to the Armada, which overlooks the beach and where the tragedy happened. And we gather there usually on the Saturday of the festival. And we've been very, very lucky that the Spanish government and the Spanish Navy in particular, the modern Armada, have taken a great interest in what we're doing here, because we're remembering their forebears, their antecedents. And we've been very, very fortunate to befriend several admirals. We had the head of the Naval Services, Admiral Sanchez here, Ajima, 2 years ago. And every year, for the last 2 years ago. But we've had an admiral in attendance along with the ship of the Armada, which is an extraordinary thing.
Yes, it is.
That they would consider it right to send a ship to join with us. So we've had ships like the Centinela and the Arnamendi every year come and join with us in the commemoration in particular, but also the other events we have. We always have a concert of music, usually something related to that period, Baroque music. We always have a conference where we invite people. We've had people from all over the world come, Armada enthusiasts like myself, who come from all over the world to talk about the connections. Like we've had people from Sweden, we've had people from the UK, obviously Spain,
From
Portugal we've have, and I'm hoping that we will have a Portuguese representative back again. In fact, we had the head of the O'Donnell clan in Portugal, Don. I'm very bad now with names, but he's a wonderful man. He gave us a wonderful presentation 3 years ago. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's been, and I've made such friends. Like for example, that book that I was talking about, the book, the Armada, the Colin Martin and Geoffrey Parker. I have the pleasure of considering Colin Martin one of my closest friends now on Armada. We've had him 2 or 3 times to come and speak to us. A wonderful man.
And I have you as a friend.
Yeah, of course. Well, this is the thing about the story, Nana. You meet the most interesting of people. And you know, when you contacted us through the website, sure, we were only delighted to assist wherever we can.
I was so happy you answered me.
This is what we do. I mean, we're very interested in encouraging research and any way we can of getting the story out there to wherever. I mean, there is a great connection between South America and
Portugal.
Portugal in particular, yeah.
Yes.
So the web of Armada interests is very, very wide.
Sure.
And we're very happy to welcome enthusiasts to come and join with us in the story.
And I'm honored for your help, for everything that you taught me all this time. And thank you so much.
Nice.
Please talk about the museum and everything. Invite people, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people would love to come here and visit and know more about the Spanish Armada.
Wonderful. Good suggestion. And I should be always thinking of the marketing of the thing. We have a small visitor centre. We're very fortunate. We have a lot of wealthy benefactors who come to us every year in September and always bring something. So we have people like Estadio Seco from Madrid and Chinchilla from down southeast. Can't remember the name of the area now. It'll come to me. And they come bearing gifts all the time. So our little centre has wonderful replicas of the 16th century swords, kitchenware, all sorts of artifacts. We have an original letter from Philip II to a village in Spain telling them to send the people straight away. The Armada is about to depart. We have, what else? We have an original 16th century dagger, a fearsome weapon, but very evocative of the period. We have lots of coins, which is an interesting. I had a group of visited the centre there about 18 months ago from Peru, And I was showing them the coins and explaining that I was in one that they said, "This is our gold. This is our gold. Give it back."
Oh my God, I heard about it. Well, between Brazil and Portugal, it's our gold. It's our gold.
But so we have a collection of coins of the period, and we have cannonballs which turn up on the beach from time to time. Now, back in the mid-80s, a group of English divers came in and rediscovered the site of the...
You participated in that, right?
Of the ships. Sorry?
To the diving to... It was in the Striga?
Yes. That exhibition that you attended last year was telling the story of the 85 excavation when the English divers came in and found refound the wrecks. And then in 2015, we noticed timbers coming ashore. So we knew that something was happening on the wreck site. The understanding up until then was that everything was covered with the burden of sand and seawater is a wonderful preservative. And the archaeologists don't believe in excavating underwater anymore. They think if it's underwater and it's under sand, it's perfectly preserved. And they will wait until the technology improves that they can be able to look at it without moving it. In other words, with sonar and cider and all that wonderful equipment that people can deploy now. But we noticed in 2015 that timbers were coming ashore, so we realised that perhaps the wreck was uncovered, or one of the wrecks was uncovering. And we called in the Underwater Archaeology Unit, who are the government people responsible for underwater archaeology, very good friends of ours, and they did an initial survey, and then they put together a recovery operation, and we brought ashore 9 cannon. We didn't, they did. We assisted wherever we could, and they're currently in conservation in Dublin. Now, the intention is that they will be returned to Sligo if and when, and it's not if, when we provide a suitable building for them. And there are plans in Sligo County Council, which is our local authority, to build a museum, a part of which will accommodate all the wonderful artefacts.
A bigger one, right?
Yes. Well, the little visitor centre.
It would be important.
Very important. And it would be
such a big part of your history.
Absolutely. And it is unique because of the 26 ships, and there were 26 ships lost on the Irish coast during that period. In 1588, there are only 6 sites that have been recoveries from. So we know exactly the ships and what they were carrying. And that's the one in the Girona at the Giant's Causeway, the Trinidad Valancera in Donegal, the 3 Striga wrecks, and there's a wreck in
La Lavia, La Giuliana,
and
I forgot the other
Santa
one.
Maria de Vision.
Santa Maria de Vision.
Yes, but the one in Kerry. So and in fact, Colin Martin, whom we were talking about earlier, who is a great friend of ours, he has been involved in all those excavations because he was around and diving at the time when diving technology increased by the new time. So the amount of equipment you had to deploy became less and less, and you had all these wonderful sonars and gliders and God knows what. So he was involved in all the excavations in Ireland because he became the expert. He was lecturing in St Andrews in Scotland, which was a great centre for maritime studies. So he and his wife Paula are real experts in Armada heritage, and we're delighted to have them. Visitor Centre, which opens from at weekends from Easter through to October, where we open to the public from the hours of 2 to 6. It's volunteer run and manned. It's a struggle at times to get people because people are very time poor. But there are idiots like me who has time on their hands that's more than happy to go in there and meet all these fascinating people that come through. And I've yet to meet a person who hasn't enjoyed the experience. The experience is about an hour long. And we show a docudrama that we made in 2019, just before COVID actually. And that's shown as
the Francisco.
Yeah, you've seen that, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And
God.
that's part of the visitor experience. And the people that are manning the centre are able to answer all the questions. There's a series of panels that tell the story of the Armada, and particularly of the three Striga wrecks, to put them in the context of the overall Armada story. And stuff turns up on the beach from time to time, and people bring them in. There's timbers. Recently came just after Christmas there, and we have them currently in a holding pond in the local area, and we're waiting for the authorities to take them in charge. So yeah, it's a very dynamic site, and stuff will, as time goes on, because we've had so much coastal erosion in Ireland, particularly in the west, where we suffer the whole force of the wild Atlantic, and that leads to the wrecks uncovering. And when that happens, it's very important that anything that's exposed is recovered and properly treated. And the National Museum have been obviously very important in that. So we expect, we wouldn't be praying for storms now, but we will take advantage. If storms come and stuff uncovers, there was 3 ships lost. There's at least 60 more cannon out there, but the cannons are extraordinary, and they carry beautiful tracery, and they were the weapons of mass destruction of their day, and they carry the effigies of martyred Christian saints, which is an extraordinary thing when you think about it. But it's the small things that are recovered that will tell more of the story. For example, one of the ships that we were talking about, the Santa Maria de la Vision, that was a hospital ship. Mm-hmm. So, and that has never uncovered. La Lavia and Juliana, which is the most recent one, have uncovered from time to time. It hasn't, and we're fascinated to find what that contains.
Yeah,
because it could inform us a lot about the medicine that was carried on board, mm-hmm. and how they managed injuries and so on and so forth.
And jewels, something like that. Have you found like jewels or
jewels?
Jewels, yeah.
No, very interesting. The 3 ships, they in the immediate aftermath of the wrecking, because it was the people gathered straight away, trying to gather what they could.
Whatever they
could. Whatever was on the sailors and soldiers' bodies would have been taken back then. I mean, when you say there's 3 wrecks, all you'd see, if they were all exposed, would be just an accumulation of disarticulated timber. But down in the bows, the most likely would have been, you'd never know what you'd find. Mm-hmm. But in the immediate aftermath, most of the valuable stuff would have been recovered from the beach and taken away by the local people. Mm. Interestingly enough, they were more interested in their clothes than they were in coin, because coin wasn't commonly used in this wild and part of the country. They have more value on the clothes. Of course the clothes would have been exotic, very exotic for them,
Different, yeah.
So they were more interested in that. But there you go.
And this year, the festival?
Yeah, the festival happens in the 3rd weekend in September every year, and it follows the usual format. We have a conference, and we have a concert, and the ambassador comes.
Spanish songs, right?
Sometimes, sometimes Spanish dance.
Okay.
We try and combine Irish music with Spanish music. We've had a naval band for the last 2 years, and we're hoping that they'll come again next year. And
I'll be here this year.
That was so well. You'll enjoy it now, because we had a Ceilidh. They played at a Ceilidh. You know what a Ceilidh is? Ceilidh is Irish dance music, mm-hmm. and they had spent weeks learning Ceilidh music. Absolutely fantastic. The bandmaster and the 8 or 9 strong, and they played a concert in the local church, very appropriate music, and then they played at a Ceilidh later on in the evening, and great fun was had by all. So that weekend also there's a food festival. Taste of Sligo is on at the same time, so we coordinate with them, and we organise that the band will play in at Queen Maeve Square.
Do people have to pay? Is there?
No, we don't. Well, sorry, the majority of events that we run, we don't charge. We're a volunteer group. We're not for profit, but we have to cover our costs. So if we put on something, for example, the conference, if we bring people in, you have to pay them, you have to accommodate them. So we do charge a nominal sum. I think it's €10 last year to attend the conference. The concert, I think we charged €15 or something like that. But again, it's just to cover costs.
Fair.
And well, we'd like to build up a little war chest, because over the years into the future, when the museum is built in Sligo, we will need to expand the visitor centre in Grange, because the museum in Sligo will encourage people to come to Sligo, and then it will be important that we have something to show.
So the museum will be in Sligo.
Yes.
And the community will be in here.
The visitor centre
The
will be here.
visitor centre will still be in here. Okay.
To explain to people, what, like if you go down to the beach today, you'll see a very beautiful beach, but you won't see any evidence of timbers so it does need interpretation. So that's the purpose of the visitor centre, to explain when people go to the beach that
it would be amazing to have someone like making, the guide, taking people around and, telling the history about the Spanish Armada. Would be amazing.
Didn't I do that for you?
Oh my God! Are you offering me a job?
No, we have done that. We've regularly in the earlier years of the festival, we did have a bus tour of the sites that are associated with the Quayer story, the local area. So we visit places.
Guys, you have so much in here.
Well, there you go. But you'd visit the beach and Straud Abbey, and then go on to Castletown in Glencar, where I'm hoping to take you later on today, and then on to Drumahare and Rossclogher. Beautiful, beautiful site. We won't have time today, but I'll get you there one of the days.
Thank you.
On another visit. And in September, we may well do that tour, because we've built up a very dedicated audience who come every year. We have a group of motorcyclists, the Silver Reader Club. 15 or 20 of them came last year, and they're coming again next year. We have a group called the Captains of Yachts in Spain. Again, 15, 20 people came 2 years ago, and they're coming again next year. And there's a travel agent in Madrid now that are putting together a group of people that are interested in this period of history. Interesting that the Armada story, while Franco was in power, the Armada story wasn't talked about much because it was considered a great defeat. But in recent years, there has been a re-engagement, and possibly we have contributed to this in this period of history, because it was the golden era of Spain and Portugal.
Yes.
And it was, when you consider the beautiful buildings that were built in Madrid and Valladolid and all over Spain, it was all funded by South American money, South American wealth. So you have all this connection.
That's why you hear people saying, "That's my goal."
Yeah, and it's legitimate. It's legitimate. There's no doubt about it. But
by the way, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with?
No, because back then Brazil was, Portugal's. So the gold was from Portugal. I mean, they were the winner.
I know, Manu. But at the same time, now there were terrible things done in the name of religion.
Yeah.
And it's happening again, isn't it? It's terrifying. The return of empire, and it's happening in a different way.
We didn't learn anything.
It's happening. Well, we hopefully did learn something.
Hopefully a little bit. Just
so
a
we'll have to
little bit.
learn to deal with it now. How to deal with it.
That's our job as historians.
That's our job. Yes, absolutely. And I see huge parallels between the stories of this period of time in what's happening at the moment. So, yeah. History is not just dusty books.
No, it's
It's living. It's living, and it's the lives of ordinary people and how it touches ordinary people. And I wrote a play based on the Francisco de Cuellar story, and the basic.
I'm gonna use it, can I?
You can, of course, yeah. The basic message is it's the ordinary people. You know, they're the people. You know, this story. It's wonderful to read the story of kings and queens and empires and gold and silver and all that thing. But the lives of the ordinary people, that's the history. That's the real history. And very much Francisco de Cuellar comes back to that all the time.
It's true.
You know? So.
Thank you so much for everything, Eddie. I loved it.
I'm delighted to be of assistance, madam. Yeah.